Welcome everyone to our second keynote event for AMICAL 2025. I'm Jeff Gema, the director of the AMICAL Consortium. Although our conference is primarily an online event this year, we'll be doing this one keynote as a hybrid event, and our participants in Paris get to see the keynote in person. Colleagues from the American University of Paris, but also our guests from the neighboring American Library in Paris who are joining us today as well. So we're really lucky that our keynote speaker, Leo Lowe, happens to be in Paris this week, and he graciously agreed to take time out from his trip to give his presentation in person here at the American University of Paris. So thank you. Dr. Leo S. Lowe is the Dean and Professor of the College of University Libraries and Learning Sciences at the University of Mexico. He holds a doctorate in higher education management from the University of Pennsylvania, and a Master of Science in Information Studies from Florida State University. He also studied artificial intelligence at the University of Oxford, and he has become a recognized leader in the area of AI literacy and workforce development in libraries. As president of the Association of College and Research Libraries, moreover, he has been spearheading a national task force to help to develop comprehensive AI competencies for library workers. And yeah, I think that helping libraries to respond effectively to developments in AI is critical to libraries' future. So when I saw the draft of the AI competencies being circulated, I shared that immediately with AMICAL members. Dr. Lowe's work in particular focuses on empowering library and higher education professionals through innovative training programs. And I'm very excited that we're able to bring him here to speak with AMICAL members and AUP colleagues and friends, so that she can help our libraries to think constructively about our future in light of AI and how we might imagine developing our own library teams' capacities for confronting, but also leading and building that future. So please join me in welcoming Leo Lowe.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, everyone online and in person. It's really nice to meet you. And thank you, Jeff, for the introduction and letting me do the presentation from here, because it has good Wi-Fi here. So it's funny, Jeff, when you do the introduction, I didn't mean to point this out, but you said I work at the University of Mexico. I want to share a kind of quick thing, because I have to let people know that, hey, I work at University of New Mexico, and people are like, what is New Mexico? And I have to describe what is New Mexico to people. But I recently saw a t-shirt in New Mexico that describes it really well. It's like New Mexico, not new, not Mexico. So that's really what that is. But anyways, I'm really happy to be here to talk about AI. I'm very passionate about it. I heard from one attendees that there were maybe some pessimistic views of AI at different talks. So I am quite optimistic about AI, and I'll share one quick story of why, basically. So when so ChatGPT came out 2.5 years ago, 2022 November, and I just found it amazing. But I want to go back even further than that, of why AI seems so important to me. When I was a kid, I don't know, 10 years old, I was in Hong Kong. I was in the science class, and the teacher was doing, chemistry experiments at the front of the class. It was like mixing chemicals and showing different reactions and everything. And in Hong Kong, we were very, you have to be very polite, and you have to raise your hand and ask questions. You have to stand up. It's kind of intimidating in front of 40 other kids to ask questions. And I was very shy, so I never liked to ask questions. But I was very curious. How come the chemicals, there was no reaction with the glass containers when they were mixing these different, things? And I have summoned up my courage and asked the questions, why that is. And the teacher, maybe he was in a bad mood. Maybe he really thought it was a stupid question. He made me feel that way. It was like, because it's class. And I never found out why. And I never liked chemistry. And I was traumatized by it. I never liked asking questions even. So fast forward to when ChatGPT came out, I remember that. And I actually asked ChatGPT. I was like, explain it to me very clearly, but in a very textbook way. And then I said, hey, explain it to me like I'm a 10-year-old who likes Spider-Man. And it did, using spider web as an analogy. It's like, because the glass is very tightly wound, but still, these chemicals get through it. That's why it not react. I was blown away. I wish I had that when I was a kid, and I wish other kids had that, so that they don't have to go through what I went through. And also, if you think about it, doesn't matter how good you are as a teacher, you can explain things, several ways, but an AI can do it in almost unlimited ways. So I can see the potential in it. And that's why I'm so kind of interested in working with AI. So I'm going to try to share the screen. All right, you may have to help me how to do that.
So sure.
Yeah.
Quick. I should cue that up. Next.
And that's stuff. Yeah. Thank you. And you can see that. So with AI, now it's telling me my internet connection is unstable. I hope it's actually okay. All right. With AI, I look at this picture, I feel this is where we are right now. Remember back in, I don't know, 1800s, there were different technologies emerging. We've been using horses for a long, long time as our main mode of transportation. And then all of a sudden, automobiles, trams, and other things are coming along. And there was a time when every one of those things were on the road, on the same road at the same time. There were rules for what? I don't know. People were confused. People were scared. People were frustrated, probably, when horses were scared by cars and car drivers have to worry about horses and all of that stuff. I feel like this is where we are right now. This is this kind of transitional period where one new technology has just emerged. A lot of people I felt back then were like, no, cars are not going to be the mainstream things, too expensive and all of that stuff. But now look at it. It's only rich people who have horses and everyone else has cars. So I think it's going to be kind of like that. I can see AI being a very dominant technology moving forward. And it's going to be, you can see signals now. It's embedded in almost everything, or it's going to be embedded in almost everything. So, but when I saw this picture, I thought, oh, this kind of describes where we are quite well. If you remember when ChatGPT first came out, which industry got hit the most in the most immediate way? It was higher education. You can pass exams and can do homework. It came out in late November, right? So that was very near the finals week in the US. I don't know about here, but that was when final assignments were due and all of that stuff. In my library, a lot of students came in and asked our librarians to find them journals and books, and we couldn't find them. Right now, we understand it's because it made up those citations. It's hallucination and all of that stuff. But back then, we had no idea. But those could have been teachable moments. We could have taught them at that point of need that, hey, you should use ChatGPT or any of these AI tools these ways, and maybe not use them for these ways. So we were not ready. But now it's 2.5 years later. We should be ready for things that are coming along that students are using. But at the same time, it's very powerful, but there are other issues. You're probably seen these headlines. Copyright, that's a big one. A lot of companies are suing these tech companies. There's a big one with the New York Times, and there are many other ones. Nothing has really been settled yet, basically because current US copyright laws are just not caught up. They are not ready to deal with this technology because there are a lot of issues with, tracing it to who, the output, tracing it back to the original source, which is kind of like the black box effect. Things go through, and then it remixes it, put it out. How can you tell which source it used to do that? So that's going to be a big problem. I think it will take a while for copyright law to catch up. And if you follow the news in the US, our register for copyright just got fired. And some people, there's some speculations, I don't know if that's true, that it has something to do with tech companies wanting certain ways with the copyright laws. So we shall keep tab on that. But like I said, it hits education the hardest and in the most immediate way. So the Department of Education in the US put out a report in 2023 in the summer to kind of give some guidance on how can educators and librarians deal with this in teaching and learning. And it's a nice report, but the most important thing in that is that it stresses the importance of AI literacy for all of us, and we need to learn it basically. And this is kind of my own stance. Is that I'm not pro AI or anti AI in this way, but I'm very pro learning about AI. I feel like even if you don't like the technology, if you learn more about it, your arguments are going to be stronger to argue against it. So I want all of us to learn more about it and being AI literate. And a lot of people feel the same way, like EU AI Act. There is an AI literacy part of it that they're saying that if an organization or a company that uses AI or they sell a product of AI product, their employees should be AI literate, right? So it falls on them, their responsibility to train and upskill their employees. In different states in America, California, they want to improve AI literacy in schools. In New Mexico, we have talked to our legislators and talking about AI literacy, and they want AI literacy in every educational level. So a lot of different states are already talking about how to incorporate that into their curriculum. Science, journals like Nature, Science, they're talking about all scientists need to be AI literate because it's impacting how people do research. It's going to be embedded in a lot of research products. And so people need to be knowledgeable about this technology, the scientists. And then Forbes say, hey, billions of people need to be learning AI literacy. That means basically every single person needs to learn a bit about AI, just like how we use the internet, right? We don't need to know everything about it, but we should know enough so that we can use it intelligently, basically. So because of that, I have done 2 national studies on AI literacy especially for academic library workers. And I did the first survey in May 2023. So that's about 6-7 months after ChatGPT came out. So it's pretty soon after ChatGPT came out. And then I did a follow-up a year later, basically. So the purpose of this, the key motivation is really, well, I'm curious. I wanted to learn, find out where we are, basically, and then use it to develop upskilling and training programs for us. It's hard to do that because when I remember in the first several months, I wanted to learn more about it. I couldn't find anything, out there to teach me, basically. So just a little bit about the findings. So the first survey, remember this is just about 6-7 months after ChatGPT came out. I would say these are self-reported. People who have below moderate understanding of AI and not very familiar with generative AI tools. So out of 5, midpoint being 3, is under the midpoint for both. A lot of gaps exist. They've heard of maybe machine learning, but they haven't heard of a lot of neural network and other things. So there's a notable demand for training. A lot of people wanted to learn about it, but not a lot of resources available at that point. But one thing that's common across the board is a strong emphasis on the urgency of addressing ethical and privacy issues. For library workers, that makes sense because copyrights, that's the big thing when it first emerged, is that where did they get all these data from? And now we're moving to a part of how can we get creators or authors how can we help them get compensated and have a model that can be fair moving forward. I would like to ask the question, maybe Jeff or Alex, you can monitor online in the chat, and people here, you can raise your hand. Do you have access to the premium version of any AI tools like Claude? If you raise your hand, I see it one nod. Most people don't. Yeah, Jeff. And what about online? Do you see anybody on the chat saying yes or no? Or want to get a sense of? It's a mix, yeah. So, yeah, still it's not widely available. So, but it's important actually. So let's compare the first survey in 2023 and the follow-up survey a year later on the right. So people have increased their understanding and how familiar they are a little bit from year on. But if you look at the adoption of premium tools, in the first survey, only about under 8% of people had access to it. But second year, more than double. I would say now it's year 3. I think it has increased even more because a lot of institutions have that for people. Back then, I think most of these people pay for these themselves, right? Training, people have taken part in any kind of training or professional development. In the first survey, only about a third of them. Second survey, 2/3. So, but I'm defining this as loosely as possible. Even people who have attended one of these, I'll say, oh, you have attended some kind of professional, development training. But moving forward, I think we want to define that a little bit more. How many people have taken part in any kind of structured training? And there's a notable demand for that from the surveys. And also the perception. In the first survey, only a minority strongly agreeing that AI could be beneficial. A lot of people like still quite very skeptical about it. But by the second survey, a larger majority agreeing that AI has the potential to significantly benefit library operation, right? So some changes 1 year later. But here are some of the, I think, more important thing or more interesting thing rather. Now, people who have taken part in training versus people who have not taken part in trainings. So people who have taken part in training have a little bit of higher either understanding of how familiar they are, 5.5% higher or 15% higher than people who have not taken part in trainings. But the interesting, the reason I asked you whether you have access to premium tools is this. People who pay for premium tools have access to them, a lot higher increase in their understanding of how familiar they are with these AI tools, 23% higher, 40% higher versus the 5.5 and the 15%. Now, there could be many reasons because people who either pay for it or have access to it may be more interested in the technology, or they have already paid out of pocket. They are naturally more inclined to use it more. And the more you use it, the more familiar you are with it, and the more you learn about it. But nonetheless, that means people who pay for it or at least have access to it have access to a higher quality product, and they can use it in a way that can benefit them more, and they may find it more interesting to learn about it or apply it in different ways. But we need to figure out the whys, but here are some of the results basically. So I talked about wanting to develop training programs based on these surveys. So I wanted to understand what are the barriers, what are stopping people from developing the skills, and there's some common themes. And the first one is access to tools, because it costs money. I don't know about here, but in the US it's about $20-25 a month for people to get access to a higher level of ChatGPT. And there's a second level, which costs $200 a month, which is even more powerful. And most people would not pay for that, right? But without access to tools, people had to rely on the free version, which they are quite good now. But there's a big difference between the paid and free version. So, and the hallucination, I mean, it's much less so with the higher quality product. So that's one thing. Knowledge gaps. So people, like I said, they have taken some trainings. People have at least, people who are interested in have taken, gone to a webinar, maybe a workshop, maybe, but not a lot of people have taken structured trainings in a series of, modules and other things like that. So there are a lot of gaps. You've heard of this thing, but you never really try it, or you don't have hands-on experience in that, or you don't have access to the tools. So there are a lot of knowledge gaps. This is the big one, the time constraints. Nobody has time, basically. If I have to work already, where am I going to find several hours a week to learn this new tool? Unless I can directly use it for my work, and that's not always the case. So it's still a time of exploration. So it's an additional thing on top of whatever work that you have to do. Institutional issues. Some places are very gung-ho about AI, very embracing of it, and they're investing a lot of money. You've probably seen some of these really high-profile places like Arizona State. They have agreement with ChatGPT. They have it's an institutional license. Yale is investing $150 million on AI, including the libraries and all of that stuff. But these are the exceptions rather than the rules. Most places don't have enterprise versions. My place, we don't have enterprise version of it. We're looking at an enterprise version of Copilot, which is a Microsoft product, because we are Microsoft campus. But not everybody likes Copilot, and it may be more useful for administrative stuff, operational stuff, rather than, let's say, teaching and learning. But central IT feels that because it's a Microsoft product, it is safer in that way. So a lot of institutional issues, and also personal reluctance. People are scared of AI. A lot of people are like, I don't like it. There are many reasons where people don't like it. It could be environmental reasons. It could be, those ethical reasons. It could be any of those, or just, I don't like to learn new things, right? So that stops a lot of people from learning about, this new technology when there are other things that are also, causing obstacles for people. So with all of this, how can we help people? One is, I think, we need to define what is AI literacy. There are a lot of talks about it, and there are different definitions out there. What is one that we can kind of agree on, so we can kind of develop training programs to teach people those things? So this is my definition. I think AI literacy is the ability to understand, use, and think critically about AI technologies and their impact on society, ethics, and everyday life. It's very broad. It's supposed to be broad. I want everybody to be able to do that, basically. And with that, I identified 5 key components of AI literacy. One is technical knowledge. We don't need to be computer scientists. We don't need to know how to code. Just like we don't need to know everything about how the internet works, but we should know a little bit how the Google search works, right? The same thing with AI or generative AI in a lot of these cases is that, it's a statistical model, actually. It doesn't think like we think. It doesn't know what it's actually talking about in that way. It predicts, but in a very powerful way. It can predict a lot of things because there's such a vast amount of data. They've basically seen everything. So we can have guess what it's going to be like. So even just knowing that, you have already know a lot more than most people. And you can kind of understand why it hallucinates, right? So we should have a bit of technical knowledge of AI. Second is ethical awareness. With this new technology, there are going to be so many new ethical questions that will come up. We already talked about copyright. It's something we cannot solve right now with current copyright laws. So, and there will be new ones. We haven't talked about, but there are questions about AI use in academic settings, academic integrity, plagiarism. How do we deal with that? But there are even bigger ones, like, okay, there will be self-driving cars. And say, if we're just driving ourselves and we are about to hit the car in front of us, we need to turn left or turn right. That's a reaction, right? So we can try to avoid that. We may hit a van over here or motorbike over here, but it's a reaction. But if it's a self-driving car, that's built into the algorithm. That's a decision. Should we hit the van with a family of 5, or should we hit the motorbike with 1 person? That's going to be a decision. It's going to be an ethical decision, a legal question, and all of that stuff. So there will be so many of these new things. Critical thinking. I think this is where librarians can play a huge part. One is, how do you use AI? How do you prompt it, the input, and all of that? And the other thing is when it spits out the output, how do you verify it? How do you make sure it's actually accurate? How it's not misinformation or disinformation? How can we teach our users to use information literacy in the AI world? So that's going to be quite important. Practical skills. There are so many AI tools out there. There's, even general purpose one like ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's, Copilot, there's Gemini, Google. And then there are niche ones like Midjourney for images. There's, music with Sora for videos. There are going to be so many tools. So in order to be AI literate, we should be able to learn how to use some of these tools, the ones that, that applies to us. And finally, societal impact. We need to understand how AI can influence and shape our society. The most obvious one is job displacement. It's going to be, a big question or issue coming up. AI can replace a lot of tasks at this point. At some point, it can replace complete jobs. And some people may not be ready for that. Society may not be ready for it. Another thing is that the environmental impact. A lot of people talk about this energy use, its carbon footprints, and all of that. Now, so these are some of the things that we should be thinking about to be an AI literate person. As you can kind of see this, if we want to teach them, not one person or one discipline probably can cover all of that. So as librarians, libraries or librarians, we may want to be that hub to bring in people from different disciplines, like computer scientists, philosophers, social scientists, and all of those people come together and help teach AI literacy for our users. So with this framework, with the 5 components, you can kind of see, okay, so where am I within these 5 components? I have developed 4 levels, and I try to make sense of them through everyday analogies. And so components are what you learn, the 5 things I just talked about, and levels are how deep you go. Level 1, 2, and 3, 4. And because I'm in Paris, I've been thinking about food a lot. So last 2 days, I've been like, maybe I should use some food analogies. These may not be perfect. I just came up with these in the last couple of days. So let me know how they work, whether they work for you. So the 4 proficiency levels are, first is awareness. As I smell the aroma, you can recognize, the smell. Foundational, you can follow the recipe to do something, apply. And then apply analytical, you can kind of, you become more proficient. You can improvise flavors, you can analyze, refine. And then at the top, you can be very strategic. You can basically design the menu for the restaurant. You can lead and innovate within your own organization, right? So let's go through all the 5 components and see how they apply. So in terms of technical knowledge, basic awareness, you can kind of name the basic spaces. You can define what is machine learning, what is AI, what are data. At the next level, at the foundational level, you can understand the flavor pairing a little bit. You can explain how data and model parts interact. And then applied, now you're experimenting with new things, new spaces, fine-tune, debug prompts. And then at the strategic level, you're designing the kitchen, roadmap AI infrastructure for the library, right? In the ethical awareness part, you can, at the awareness level, you can notice dietary restrictions, allergies, spot bias, privacy, fairness concerns. In the foundational level, you debate sustainable sourcing, question data provenance and broader impact. At the higher level, 3rd level, apply analytical, you can run tasting panels on values versus cost, lead systemic ethical critique. And then at the strategic level, you're basically crafting the AI policy for your organization. In the critical thinking part, at the awareness level, does it taste right? So ask if the AI output makes sense. And the next level, you can compare it to that recipe, verify AI against trusted sources, and then apply. Now you're doing new things, invent fusion dish, iterate, tweak. At the strategic level, you're teaching other people, establish evaluation standards on, on critical thinking. And practical use, awareness, you can name the common tools, the common appliances, like list AI tools relevant to your workflow. Foundational, you can actually use the tool, blend the smoothie correctly, for example, and run simple prompt tests. At the applied level, you can mix and match using different tools at the same time, integrate API for multi-step processes, AI agents, and all of that. And the strategic level, now you're designing a very efficient layout for the kitchen, driving change management for AI adoption. And then finally, societal impact. Just being aware is to see how meals can influence community. And you can basically note AI's effect on jobs and culture. At the next level, you can talk about equity, dietary equity, facilitate community AI forums. And then maybe next level, hold larger events, lead inclusive AI literacy programs. And then finally, at the strategic level, you can advocate for digital ethics legislation. Right. So these are, if you apply these 4 levels to the 5 components, you can get a sense of how we want to develop AI literacy in a person or in an organization. So I wrote this paper. It's a preprint. If you are interested, this is a QR code. I'll give people some time to, take a look at it. You can download it. I'm still working on it to submit it to a journal, but if you read it and you have thoughts, let me know. Seriously, I want to hear. And there are a lot more explanations in there with, and also a self-assessment rubric as well. So that's the AI literacy framework that I've been working on based on studies and all of that. And with that, I actually developed a upskilling program at my university. We did one in 2023, right after I finished the first survey study based on that. Because I saw that not a lot of people have access to the premium version. At that point, it's GPT-4. Now GPT-4 doesn't even exist anymore. So we call it a GPT-4 exploration program. So my college, we paid for 10 volunteers to use GPT-4 at that time. And it's funny too, because we tried to use it on a credit card and OpenAI would not let us use one credit card for 10 people. It took a while to even figure that out. Now there's Team. But anyways, so we try to apply adult learning principles because of the barriers I just talked about, time and all of that. So we want it to be self-paced and flexible learning. People don't like to just sit in the classroom and listen. When we're working professionals, we have our lives. People like to learn together, like a community of practice. They can share things and learn from each other. And it's really important, learn by doing. People need hands-on time and hands-on support. That's why we give them the premium tool. And also practical, immediate relevance. People don't have time. Sometimes people are reluctant to learn if it's not directly related to what they do at work. So we want to make it that it is very directly related to what they do on a day-to-day basis. So here's the program. We selected 10 volunteers from different units of my college. So my college is quite unique. We have the libraries, which is the biggest part of it. We have the university press, and we also have a learning sciences academic program. So we have 3 very different distinct units. We got 10 volunteers. I think 8 people are from the libraries and 2 from one each. They had very different levels of interest. Some people really, really kind of, embracing AI. A couple of people were very skeptical, actually. And some people have a lot more kind of computer science background. Some people have none. So very different levels. But we pay for the subscription fees for GPT-4 for the participants. Here's the structure. Phase 1, introduction and training, just 2 weeks. we couldn't really find anything, training. So we found, I think that was one called ChatGPT Bootcamp or something for librarians, it's specifically for librarians. So we bought that and for our people to watch. But really just, very piecemeal stuff, ad hoc stuff. But really that part is to introduce people to the structure of the program, so that the whole point of it is that they would develop a individual project that they would use GPT-4 for, that is directly for their work. For example, you're a reference librarian, you do reference, you have to use GPT-4 for something that's related to that you're going to be using it to test whether it's actually better than what you do. Are you saving time using it? So we kept adding those metrics for people to measure whether it is a good thing or not. And then phase 2, exploration and experimentation. Once they have developed their individual project, they would use it on a regular basis and then document what they've done. And we'll get together every other week as a community, and we share progress, share tips, share concerns, and all of that stuff. And people get to learn about how each other are using it. And then finally, evaluation and sharing. The outcome of it is that I wanted to put together a PowerPoint. Everybody have 3 to 5 minutes to talk about their project, to share with the rest of the college and the rest of the university, so that people can see, oh, you can use GPT this way. And here are some of the things that maybe you should not use it for, right? So here are some of the individual projects. One person who is more proficient in AI developed a machine readable data management plan using ChatGPT, because we help a lot of researchers write grant proposals, and this is part of it. And we want to use ChatGPT to help them. One reference librarian investigate hallucination. That was the big thing at that point. One person used GPT to create reference FAQs and then compare it with the human created one and get user feedback. My assistant loved it the most. She used it to do a lot of things like calendaring, scheduling, taking meeting notes, and all of that. Actually, she and I wrote an article together to share how much she loved it. And then metadata, that's another area. I think there's a lot of potential. One person used GPT to learn metadata creation. I think it's at this point compared to then, it's gone so much better. So we did pre and post program surveys. In the pre-program survey, the average rating was 2.36, even lower than the national rating for the 10 volunteers in terms of how familiar they are with Gen AI. National average was 2.71. But after that, it's risen quite a bit. It's a 54% increase compared to, you saw earlier, the 20-something percent, 40%. I think the whole point of this is a access to tools plus structured training. So if I combine those two things, I think it's actually done quite well in terms of result. And here are some of the things they shared in the post-program survey. One person said, this program changed AI from a threat into a collaborator. I gained confidence in using AI to enhance my daily work rather than replace it. And the freedom to experiment made AI less intimidating. Some key learnings. Hands-on experimentation really increased comfort with AI. Prompt practice builds critical skills, and these tailored projects amplify engagement. So we like that they are able to use it for something that's really directly related to their work. But there are a lot of challenges. Data privacy concerns, that one almost, I think, came up in every single one of our meetings, is that, can we upload this? Can we put this in there? So we didn't have a policy. So we just followed the central IT policy. Don't put anything that will violate any of these, verba or anything like that. No identifiable data. Don't put your social security number. Don't put other people's names and addresses, that kind of stuff. And then another challenge was prompt engineering. It's difficult but essential to have. Now moving, like, 2.5 years later, I think prompt engineering, the need for it is less so, but I still think it's a very useful skill if you know how to prompt. And also AI lacks subject matter expertise. Unless you are that domain expert, it's very hard to tell whether that's true or not. So that's one kind of good tip, is that if you're going to use it in an area that you're familiar with, so you don't have to spend a lot of time verifying everything. So after that program, we felt it's very successful. So we actually work with other units on campus, first with the Center for Teaching and Learning, and expanded it to the rest of the university for instructors. We have like 24 summer, we have an AI for teaching, GPT-4 for teaching faculty, AI for research. We were using Sites.ai, which is a literature review software for faculty, and then an AI for open educational resources. AI for OER. We have a big OER grant at that point, and we actually use some of the money to incentivize people to use ChatGPT or GPT-4 to create or enhance OER, or just get started. And then they can use that as kind of like the prototype and apply for the bigger grant that we give faculty. So these are all 8 weeks programs for the university faculty. And in the spring, just now, I led one for academic advisors, because people were talking, oh, you only care about faculty and students. We want to help with our staff too. So academic advisors, a cohort of actually 15 people, and they use Gen AI for their work. So my college, we actually pay for all of these subscriptions. And then this summer, we're going to have an AI for humanities faculty, because humanities faculty, they tend to be the most resistant, or at least fearful, or they have a lot of concerns. We have one Russian professor who did the 24 summer AI for teaching one. She was one of the participants. Now she'll be leading it. So that's kind of the hope, is that we train the trainers. People who are interested in it can teach their colleagues, and people tend to listen to their peers a bit more than librarians. So this one just came out. This is kind of the last part from Sage. They have this Librarian Futures series of reports. This is part 4. And I wrote the foreword for it. That's why I got these numbers. But it's out now. You can find it online. They did a global survey of over 1,000 students and 300 librarians. And that's quite interesting. So some of the key findings. Over half students report using AI tools like ChatGPT in their research, but only 8% said their librarians supported them in their use of AI, right? Over half, I think, were a lot more than half. And despite this, student trust in librarians remain high, with more than half saying they would feel more confident using AI tools if recommended by their librarians. We have an opportunity here. They trust us, but we need to be up, our skills or knowledge needs to be up there to work with them. Now, students cite uncertainty around academic integrity as a reason for hesitating to use AI in deeper ways. And I think that's common across the board, because faculty are not there yet. Every class, every syllabus is slightly different, and some people don't even mention it. And we are putting our students in a very awkward position. They don't know whether they can use it or how to use it. Lastly, 27 of students wouldn't look to anyone at the institution for AI guidance, more than those who would turn to a librarian. So even more people would not. They would not even talk about it. And this is something that I find quite interesting. And not just students, I feel like even us, even other faculty or researchers, I feel like there's a stigma in admitting that you use AI, and there's a recent study on it. In fact, I'm going to do a study with Sage on this as well. But I find it quite interesting. There's a cultural lag when this technology is not accepted by everyone yet. I think there is something about admitting that you use it. Anyways, with ACRL, I have set up a task force to develop a set of AI competencies for AI workers. And they are about to finish. So we'll put it out. It's not like the end all be all. It's going to be a living document. The whole point is to develop training programs, especially with ACRL. And we are already working with Clarivate to sponsor they're sponsoring a series of modules based on this. And there's an ACRL AI discussion group. You don't need to be an ACRL member. You don't need to be a ALA member. Anybody can join. Just Google ACRL AI discussion group. And I am on LinkedIn. I share and I get a lot of AI news. So if you're on LinkedIn, feel free to connect and follow me wherever you feel comfortable. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Yeah. Be happy to answer any questions, or if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them as well. But one question from here to us. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned that early on, students coming back in asking about paper, which didn't exist. Have you seen a change in those instances? And how would you combat that, or what would the teachable moment have entailed?
I have not kept track of that, but I would imagine there was still some of those. But I have not heard a lot from my own librarians about that, so I don't know. But I would imagine there are still those. But the teachable moment is to come and if they ask for things that they don't exist, and we notice that, and we can teach them, hey, explain that first of all, the technical aspect of AI is that why do these AI models hallucinate or make up citations? Just a little bit of that. And then with that understanding, say, okay, if you're going to use it for something or for your work, maybe you shouldn't use it to find citations, or maybe you should use it for something else like brainstorming. Or if you use it to find citation, maybe do a verification, teach them how to verify these sources. That is information literacy, right? So that leads into the work that we do. However, that's the difference between the free version and the paid version. The paid versions have several options now that are very accurate in finding sources that people could use. And I have used them. A lot of researchers are using it, the deep research feature that people can find real citations. Now, are they the best citations? So that's the teachable part. Are these the best sources to use for your topic? If that's the next level, basically. But I think the more familiar with these tools, the practical use, the technical aspect, the more we can funnel it to the things that we teach people, like information literacy, because ultimately it is about that. Right. So yeah, thank you for that question. Jeff, you said you have.
Yeah, I just wanted to invite the folks. We've actually got 87 folks online. So if anyone wants to use their mic to ask a question, raise your hand and we'll try and give you the mic. You can also add your questions to the chat, and we've been following that. One of the questions, the first question that came up in the chat was from this is Noor at Habib University in Pakistan. He says, he asks, in an academic institution, who necessitates the need for AI literacy? And I believe they're asking about this, where's the mandate coming from?
Yeah.
The program for studies like librarians, faculty, academic and research offices.
Right. I'll use my own example. I told them we should do it. I should do it. The library should do it. Why not take this proactive step? Because that's the question a lot of people are asking. Even the universities are asking, who should take this? Should we? I want us to take it. I want us to be in that leadership role when things are changing and know the rules have not been set, and we can set the rules. Once we're in that position, we have leverage. We can get resources for the things we want to do, and we can kind of be in that position to bring other people together. I'm not saying that we should do everything ourselves. There's no way we can do everything ourselves, but we can be in that leadership position, not just to be at the table, but we set the table for this thing and then bring other people together. And that's that way we can, one, get more resources, elevate our status on campus, and kind of be an important part of this kind of new world, basically. Now, I know that it doesn't always work for every single library, depending on their relationships and their where they are in terms of their own kind of, their own campus and their own university. But I'll really encourage all librarians to take this lead together like a collective so that people can see the libraries as the expert in AI literacy. And now, because I basically jumped in head first, most people, when they talk about AI, not just AI literacy, anything with AI, they come to my library first. They come to me first, so that, and then we can decide how we want to do it. So I want all the libraries to have that, so that we can become this new, this new leader in this. I think with the internet, I think we are, very, in a very good position with information literacy and all of that. But we got sidelined a bit, I feel like. And it's not just the teaching part. For example, with the agreements, licensing, and all of that, we thought when the internet first came out, I thought, oh, it doesn't cost more to produce one more digital copy. Then everything should be free. Everything, should be open access for everybody. It did not turn out that way. It got more expensive. I feel like we were a little bit too naive and too passive and not take that lead and shape that world that we wanted, and then let other people who have more incentive to shape their world in terms of, let's say, publishers. They can shape the world that they wanted. They can actually make more money selling us things that doesn't really cost a lot more to produce, right? So with AI, it's going to be another reset in information discovery, in these kind of licensing. And if we just sign away everything without knowing enough, we may repeat the same mistake, basically. If you think more about it, I've been thinking a lot about this, is that all of these publishers are basically licensing their content to tech companies now, because they were like, if you're going to steal my stuff, why don't I make money off it, right? So if you think, if they do that, where do we fit? Where do libraries fit? If everybody can go to ChatGPT and get something directly from Helen Francis, right? And where do we fit? So that becomes almost an existential threat. I mean, there's always an existential threat whenever a new technology comes about, but this is quite real, and I don't know, how we want to react to it. So I feel like we need to be knowledgeable and not be too passive, and just whenever they give us a new clause in the agreement and just sign it. We should collectively agree that we don't want this world, we want this world, and therefore we should go for this. So sorry, I went off on a tangent.
A quick follow-up question from Noor. I get a few, but I'll just take one of his follow-up questions.
Yeah.
He's also asking, how do you motivate students to consider this as an important need?
I think students are already doing it. They are using it. More students are using it than us, than faculty. And I don't think we need to motivate them that much, because one is they find it useful, therefore they are using it. And also, when they go out to the job market, a lot of the employers expect them to use it. So it makes sense for them to have the experience or the knowledge of it. In fact, you can give them some kind of credential to say they have learned this. It will actually increase their employability. I think the difficult part is creating that support system or infrastructure so that the faculty can help them learn, to teach them in the right way, basically. So that is the difficult part. How do we motivate our faculty to use it if they have been doing teaching in the same way for many years? With AI, is that the deeper question is how we need to rethink what is teaching and learning. I mean, I mentioned earlier my own example of how AI could be a fantastic teacher, a tutor to help me learn. Then what does actual teacher, human teacher do? If AI can write all these things, what does it mean for writing? We've been using writing for hundreds of years as a proxy for critical thinking, for expressing or demonstrating knowledge to all of these things for assessment. All of a sudden, AI can do all of this. So should we still place writing as the most important thing in, let's say, humanities and other things? And so there are a lot of deep questions for people in the education field to think about. And it's scary because that means you need to completely change the way we do education. And we're not ready. I don't think, except, a small group of people or AI, people who know about AI at this point can come up with the solutions. I think it takes a huge collective, a lot of people trying different things for them to iterate and come up with new things so that we can kind of leverage AI rather than, having AI replace critical thinking or writing and other things like that. So motivating students is not that hard. It's motivating the faculty or giving them the support so that they can rethink, reimagine what teaching and learning is going to be.
As I looked up from American University of Iraq, Alapoin University, should we trust AI generated results 100%?
No. That's a simple question. No, not at this point. Always check. So my stance is, it doesn't really matter how good it is. I mean, but if you put your name on whatever piece of document, whether you use AI or not, it's your work. It's your responsibility to make sure it's correct. So, always check. Even if let's say I collaborate all of you on a paper, I should not trust you 100%, right? We should all check, right? So it's the same thing.
Jamali from Habib University in Pakistan asks, what strategic steps should libraries take to integrate AI literacy into the services?
I think we already do a lot of workshop like information literacy and maybe even coding and other things that we already do. It's not that hard to create a workshop, a course or something like that in AI literacy. I think, and also we work with other academic departments on teaching information literacy. The easiest way is to incorporate AI into those sessions and let people know that, oh, the libraries can do this, so that they, it's almost like a burden lifted from them. And you're almost teaching both faculty and students at the same time. So I think that's a very easy way to do that. But I try to, work with, or try to partner with different units on campus. Like I mentioned, we work with the Center for Teaching and Learning, which is the unit that upskills faculty. They do instructional design, they teach, faculty how to use certain technologies and other things. So we work with them to do that. So I think there are many, even small ways to incorporate that into our work.
Alia Al-Ubaidi from American University of Iraq, Baghdad asks, I can't help but wonder, are we becoming too dependent on AI? From a neuroscience perspective, could this constant interaction be reshaping our brains in ways that we haven't fully understood yet? Like we might be heading into something potentially harmful.
Yeah, we've talked about, all of this from before too. Like, when we thought the printing press, when it came out, we would lose our ability to memorize stuff when we don't have to memorize the whole book, we can read it. When the internet came out with all the information is there that we don't need to, we'll lose something. Wikipedia, same thing. Social media, same thing. Yeah, of course, I think that will be long-term, both positive and negative impact on us. But the key words is that something that we don't fully understand yet. And I think it's the same thing. Even social media is taking us this long to really see the impact. I think it's going to be the same with AI. I think that will be negative effect if we don't use it in the correct way. Correct. I don't know what that means. But I also see a lot of potentials in positively impacting us as well. So short answer, I don't know. we shall see.
David Domanza from American College of Thessaloniki in Greece asks, could you name a couple of examples of university libraries that are leading in AI literacy on campuses and their and where you think their approach is down the right path for you?
I think a lot of places are doing great work. So my place, I'm doing it. I work with, so I consult with other places as well. So I know Clemson University doing quite well. They're doing a lot of things on AI literacy, doing a lot of surveys, working with upper administration, a lot of classes, workshops. Another place, I know, well, I mentioned Yale, they're investing a lot. So the library is definitely taking advantage of that. So those are two main ones I can think of, but there are so many other ones that are doing really, I think a lot of university libraries in the US are definitely picking this up and doing more. Stony Brook is doing quite a bit. Northwestern is going all in. They're not just AI literacy, they're using their in-house computer people to develop AI models for their special collections. I recently visited Hong Kong. Several universities there have developed their own models. So that a lot of places are doing more than just teaching AI literacy but developing AI products or tools as well.
Please raise their hands.
Yeah. Are there particular database vendors that you're excited about their integration of AI at this point?
They are all experimenting. I do, work with some of them on how they are doing it. Elsevier have done Scopus AI and then Science Direct as well. Clarivate is doing quite a bit on that. So I think they're all experimenting. JSTOR, they are really looking at special collections. They're talking to a lot of the libraries in the US and say, hey, maybe we should use AI to or use your special collections to train the AI. So that in a way it's quite interesting because I mentioned earlier, okay, if publishers can license things directly to tech companies, what's left is our special collections. 80% of them are not processed, even available for people to even steal or scrape. So if we leverage that and have our own AI models that are just us and just digitize our special collections, that may be a unique feature of libraries of the future. And with AI is that currently it takes a lot to process any kind of unique content or in special collections. In the future, it could be, or even now, you can just take a picture and do the first pass very easily. And then when people actually want that, you can add the human on demand to process that particular, collections for whoever needed it. So in a way, it could become a new kind of model for special collections.
Karen Jones from American University Sharjah in Emirates asks, and by the way, all of these people asking questions, they're all saying a lot of thank yous for everything that
thank you.
But presenting and sharing, and just to focus on the questions in the interest of time. Karen asks, where could we be with AI in 5 years' time?
Oh, let me share. Okay, so in the US, Association of Research Libraries, ARL, and CNI, Coalition for Network Information, had a joint task force on AI futures, basically. We was part of that. So a bunch of people from these two associations, a lot of people from different universities, basically, get together and we use scenario planning for AI in the research ecosystem, especially research libraries. And we try to develop a report on what's going to be like in 10 years, 2035. And you can find that report online if you look at ARL CNI AI Futures. A lot of the things we thought is going to happen in 10 years is happening, but I think will happen in about 3 years. Like one scenario is autonomous AI, that these AI can be independent and can do tasks and they can become a researcher. There could be an AI Nobel Prize winner and they would do their own research. with AI agents is becoming that way. So maybe in 3 to 5 years, that could be a very autonomous, AI researcher basically. And so a lot of these things could be happening very quickly. But I think in 5 years, it could be a lot. I would say we're moving towards the autonomous AI scenario. A lot of things could be done by AI. That means a lot of jobs will have to change. A lot of people will have to adjust. In what way, I don't know yet, but I would say learning, like what I just talked about, the very basics of AI will prepare people for that. I can see regulations being loose. It seems that, if you look at US, it's full steam ahead. There seem to be some kind of geopolitical elements to this technology that countries they need to get ahead, to feel secure. So I can see regulations being not as strict as we would like. So the EU AI Act was put up as a kind of model for people when it first was developed. And I think in the US during the last administration, people wanted some of that. But now I think it's going the other way. That is just, innovation versus, restriction. And even the AI Act may have to adjust a little bit as well, I feel like. So what that means is that there may be things that we care about, like librarians that we care about, that may be not going to be as prioritized moving forward, like privacy, all of that stuff. So what does that mean? Not sure. But I can see a lot of, I would say, quote unquote, innovations. That could be really cool things coming out that may not, fit a lot of people's kind of ethical or kind of moral kind of standards. So.
Doesn't work. Please don't hesitate to do something with questions, but go and the rest of them in the chat. So Cheryl Shreya from American University of Iraq Suleimani asks if you have any recommendations about specific courses on that.
So I have developed a couple actually. One with Sage on Sage campus, which is the basic level of basic prompt engineering. So if you search for that, and then I also work with Elsevier. They have a 3-module learning series, especially for librarians. So I think it's Elsevier Connect or Academy. Look for that. So those are really good. You might may say so.
Masarwa from American College of the Mediterranean asks, do you have any advice on how to handle master's students in art history who are supposed to love reading and writing, but use AI all the time?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it that much with that, but depends on how they use AI, right? If they use AI to explain things to them, to teach them things, then it's great. If they're using it as a clutch to just write the essay last minute, then not that great. So in a way, yes, some responsibility on the students, but a lot of responsibility also on the way the assessment is set up. If the instructor is comfortable with AI enough and kind of accept that, people are going to use AI anyways, why don't we take advantage of that and find ways to incorporate that into the assessment? I think that would be helpful in that at least they can learn some responsible way of using AI, or even explore new ways of using AI instead of just as a kind of not plagiarism, just like for hire writer to write your assignment for you. But let's say, hey, why don't you actually use it to write the assignment? And then we discuss what is good and bad about this particular draft. How did you prompt it? Are you able to use what you've learned in class to prompt it in a way that will make it a really high quality paper, even if you don't write 100% of it? Or how do you edit it? Or how do you verify sources in there? Now, these are all kind of experiments. I don't know how well they can work, but I feel like people can try different things in incorporating AI in that work. It obviously takes a lot in thinking and time on the instructor's part. Now, I joined a couple of groups on Facebook. I think I don't remember what they call, but there are several of those, like ChatGPT for teachers or AI for teaching or something like that. And all these teachers, not just higher ed, but any kind of teachers who share what they've done or they ask questions, and a lot of people reply. And these are some of the things I've tried. Really interesting. People are creative. That's why I want as many people to learn this as possible, because you try things. They have their own kind of background ideas and all of that, and the people come up with really cool things. So join those groups and ask questions. Yeah.
Rashid Zegan from Al-Akwain University in Iftar in Morocco.
Yeah.
He's bringing us back to the library. Yes, in the area of library collection development, what is the impact of AI on library collection development?
So what I just talked about is that vendors and publishers are increasingly adding clauses in our agreements in that what we can do and not do. So we need to pay attention to those. And here's another thing I feel like it's going to be important. I haven't thought deeply about it, but in that AI can generate content so easily. What is our role in curating AI generated content in the future? Collection development in the past has been, well, books and journals and all of that, but now data is part of collections. In the future, what does AI mean in this? I don't know. I'm raising more questions in that. With AI generated content, or what is going to be scholarly communication, basically? Because let's say now we write a journal paper and I read it, and you have all the data in there and all of that, and you formulate your hypothesis, methodology, your conclusions, all of that. But in the future, do we even need that? In that, can a researcher just put in, this is my hypothesis, this is my methods to collect these data, these are my research questions. Can the AI just come up with, in whatever way you can come up with, and then that's our content, right? For individualized. I don't know. I'm just seeing, raising all these possibilities that it may change. So collection policy, I don't know. Is that it will probably change because all the publishers are changing their business models and changing their way of thinking. So this is a both exciting time and very scary time. Yes.
Nikki Ivanova-Bell, Library Director at the American University of Bulgaria, asks, how do you suggest libraries address AI misinformation while maintaining a position of neutrality and trust in the community?
Well, I think we can play a huge part in that. In like I said, we saw the SAGE survey. People still trust librarians. We have expertise in information literacy, and we should double down on this. I feel like we should up our skill set in how do we adapt to this AI world? How can we help people evaluate information in an even more efficient way? We should not just doing it manually. And how can we apply new technology to evaluate information based on our own kind of information literacy principles and framework? And one of the things I feel like we should do, and in addition to teaching people, is that work with developers. How do we incorporate the way we evaluate information into the algorithm so that it's almost like a librarian approved way to do AI? So these are the things that have not happened yet, but I feel it should. And the more we know, the more we connect with the industry, the more we can have shape that future. So I remember when Anthropic, the company behind Claude, at the very beginning, they were hiring prompt engineers / librarians. They value our skill set. It paid like $350,000 a year. So it's a good deal. I mean, I don't think they are hiring that anymore, but they can see the value of librarianship in these AI, work. So we should, take advantage of that too. So thank you.
We're pretty much at time. There's one last.
Okay.
This can be a quick question, but I'll throw it. It was the last question. From
Yeah.
So Gulan Gadan from American University of Kurdistan is just asking if you have any preferences, recommendations for which AI tool tends to be more accurate in providing sources and citations.
I use GPT deep research quite a bit, and I have to say it's quite accurate. Like I said earlier, they may not be the best sources, but they're accurate sources. I've used Gemini, also very good, deep research, not the regular part. So deep research, I think, requires some kind of subscription. I don't know. So that all of a sudden you can see the digital divide already. People who can afford it can get really accurate citations. But I'll recommend those two that I've used. I quite like. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that.